Where's our little piece of audio from the debate last night?
Well, I think David Seymour is a person of principle. I've worked with him before.
So he'd be a good Deputy Prime Minister
He'd
for
be
you?
excellent, in my opinion.
Be an excellent Deputy Prime Minister, David Seymour. Okay.
Jeepers.
The jeepers was from the Prime Minister. The elevation to Deputy Prime Minister came from Judith Collins. Good morning, David Seymour.
Good morning, Kerry.
Yeah, so would you accept the baubles of office?
Pretty unlikely. I mean, ACT's always been more focused on the policies and what we can leave behind to make this a better place than any particular job. So if you look at end-of-life choice, John Key said, you want to be a minister? I said, look, there's the limo, the pay rise, the title, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, there's lots of people who've been ministers and they can't point to something that they've done for New Zealand. And I'm really proud that we got end-of-life choice across the line by me turning down being a minister, and pretty prepared to make that sort of decision again. So not ruling it out, but let's just make a point that voters haven't even started voting yet. To start talking about divvying up jobs is what I call a case of premature allocation.
However, I think a lot of people would like to know what parties intend to do if they snuggle up together. It would have certainly been helpful before the last election.
Yeah.
Even though the writing was on the wall for anyone who could see it.
Yeah, so I think when you give your party vote to ACT, you're getting a couple of things very clearly. One is a smarter public health response to COVID. Two is a relentless focus on getting this debt down. And somebody that is actually prepared to stand apart from the others and hold them all accountable if necessary.
That sounds like a certain old warhorse.
No.
Used to be his favourite phrase.
No, I mean...
I'm holding them accountable, said Winston Peters.
Well, I think the difference is we've actually done it. So, he'll come out in 3 weeks before the election, say, Ihumata was a mistake. Well, could have done something during the 3 years he was actually in the government and the Deputy Prime Minister, but that's his story too late. A vote for ACT is a vote to hold them all accountable, and that means we are prepared to keep our distance from the Nats and turn down baubles if it means we get better policy progress. But it also means that you're rock solid voting to change the government and keep the left out of power. We will not go with Labour, not a chance. What we will do is make sure that there's not only a change of government, but also a change of direction. And which seat you sit on the bus, less important to me than where the bus is going. And that's got to be a faster recovery, less debt, and frankly, just some honest talking about the situation our country's in and where it's going.
Looking at the polls, you would surely say that a party vote for ACT means a Labour Greens government, coalition government, and a whole bunch of numpties nobody's ever heard of in Parliament.
Well, that's not very kind, Kerry. I mean, here's how I'd put it. A party vote for ACT means that, first of all, you're bringing votes for not only a change of government, but also to change the direction of the country. And we're actually getting people who used to vote for the Māori Party, according to your competitors' polling. We're finishing, the third party in two of the Māori electorates now. We're getting people coming from Labour, even people from the Greens, and of course...
The Greens?
Yeah. Well, that's a
Prove it.
Look, I'll tell you why people are coming from the Greens. It's because there are good people who have been Green voters for a long time because they're fundamentally liberals. They believe in choice over your body, choice over your mind, and especially freedom of speech. And now that the Green Party have become the number one thought police in New Zealand, some of their supporters, not a lot, but some of them are saying, you know what, ultimately the values that matter to me are the ability to think and speak freely, and there's only one party that has consistently stood up for that, and that's ACT. So, yep, believe it or not, even some of that. Now, the reason I tell you all that is, your assumption is that a vote for ACT is a vote for Labour and the Greens. Actually, I think ACT can help win this for the right. And you see our polling going up at the same time as the Nats goes up. I actually think it's all on. So, a party vote for ACT is actually a vote for a change of government and direction. Now, you very unkindly said that the people coming in with me are numpties. I think that's very unfair.
I think if you look back over history, though, if you look back over political history, when you get a small party, a niche party that brings in a whole lot of people who have no experience of Parliament, it does not end well for them or for the party or indeed for Parliament. I'm thinking of the Alliance. I'm thinking of New Zealand First. Have you given these people any kind of idea of what to expect? Look at some of the implosions that happened with inexperienced politicians in the last term.
Yeah,
across all sides of the
house.
So
I think you're right to reference that history, because we've certainly been aware of it. So in the middle of last year, we started our School of Practical Politics, and we started running through with people like Brooke Van Velden, people like Nicole McKee, although she came a bit later, people like Chris Bailey, 15 years as a youth aid cop, 15 years as a teacher, also owns a small business, the Honest Lawyer Pub in Nelson, makes payroll for 30 people. Simon Court, environmental engineer for 25 years, used to be a Greenie, thinks their ideas don't work. He thinks we need less regulation and more innovation to save the planet, based on being an engineer, actually doing the business with wastewater and sewage and so on. So, you look at those people, a lot of talent.
I looked at their CVs, I read them out yesterday.
Yep.
All very well and good. How does that translate into what is really a dark universe that is Parliament?
Well,
it's not for everybody, and you know that.
Well, I
and also you're you're used to being an outsider. You're outside of the tent, peeing in, which is a whole lot easier than doing it the other way around and trying to manage people.
Yeah, see, I kind of disagree about that. I mean, first of all, I have been in government. I mean, people will remember charter schools. We've made real change for New Zealand, not just outside government of the end-of-life choice, but inside with charter schools. Second thing I'd say is that, while the visible part of a party apparatus is the MPs and caucus, actually, I've been managing a party board, donors, members, half a dozen to a dozen staff, and the parliamentary service. I just got I know bad to boast, but they actually asked me to write some advice for incoming MPs about managing staff, because they think I'm one of the better people at managing a staff. So, yep, it's going to be a big step up and a challenge if we have to manage a caucus and develop that caucus culture. But it's a little unfair to say I've been outside the tent peeing, and we've had a bit of intense experience as well.
We'll take a break and throw it open to you. I've asked my questions and David Seymour has very politely answered them. 0800 80 10 80 is the number to call. Feel free to have your say. David Seymour will be here through until about 3 or 4 minutes to 11. Be quick. I've got some from the text already, some on email. 0800 80 10 80.
iHeartRadio has over 250,000 podcasts to explore right now. iHeartRadio, #1 for podcasts.
Hi Aucklanders, the Entrust dividend payment is now out. $280 for every Aucklander with a power account and living in the Entrust district. That's more than 340,000 payments and over $95 million being paid out. If you haven't got yours, check out nzh.tw to see if you qualify. If you have, how will you use it? Essentials for the kids, new tools, something special for you? How will you spend your Entrust dividend?
I call it the new Pakuranga, but with double motorway access, the airport, logistics and industry, and it's getting expensive fast. Favona by Mangere Bridge, wait for this, 2-storey, 2-bedroom, double glazed, heat pump, 10-year warranty, 64,000 deposit now, the balance early 22, and they're a bargain today. Oh yeah. They're brick and tile and I love them. Please don't miss this. Text ladder to 268 Martin Dunn.
Real estate together.
Licensed real estate agent.
Get pumped for Oxygen Air's heat pump sale. Now's the time to save up to 30% on Fujitsu ducted systems. Hurry, this offer won't last long. T's and C's apply. Call 0800 85 40 85 for your free quote or visit oxyair.co.nz.
Warm it up, cool it down with Oxygen Air heat pumps and aircon. Call us and we're there.
Love your car to pieces and it'll love you back. Take 25% off all Repco batteries and Repco parts, plus up to 35% off all other Repco branded products. This weekend only. Repco, it starts with the parts.
Hi, Jacinda here. I'm offering strong, stable government and an economic plan that stacks up. So party vote Labour. Let's stick together and let's keep moving.
Authorised by Tim Gregg, 160 Willis Street, Wellington.
I'm with Dave from Kitchen Spray Painters with a cost-effective way to modernise and revitalise your kitchen.
Yes, rather than spending up to $40,000 on a new kitchen, we can make your kitchen look and feel new for a fraction of that. It's also a service we provide to clients who are planning on selling their house. People want a nice kitchen, so it certainly helps boost the attractiveness to potential buyers. And you keep the savings.
Check out kitchenspraypainters.co.nz. That's kitchenspraypainters.co.nz today.
The 2020 election is the most important of our lifetime. COVID-19 gave us a global health crisis, and now we have an economic crisis, the likes of which we have never seen. So who has the answers to get us through this? Join me Monday morning as I put the tough questions to Judith Collins in the first of our Leaders' Breakfasts.
The Leaders' Breakfast with Judith Collins on the Mike Hosking Breakfast. Monday morning from 7, streaming at nzherald.co.nz and live on News Talk ZB. Your home for Vote 2020.
Right, well, you're not going to be a wallflower, David. We've got a full board, so we'll rip right into it. Microphone on. Thank you, Helen. Matt, first one up from you.
Yes. So, David, I had one quick question. When I do a Google of the ACT party, first thing that comes up is ACT stands for individual freedom, personal responsibility, and doing our best for the natural environment. So, if or should you be elected, how do you think, especially in the times of COVID, that you would be able to look at individual freedom and the natural environment or personal responsibility? What are your policies going to be around that?
Well, it's a big sweep, especially in the context of COVID. Let me just give you a couple of thoughts about that. Number one is that, this virus is real and it's basically one species attacking another, and we've got to be smart in our defences. So I look to Taiwan as the only country that gets it. We need to be Taiwan smart in our public health response. We need better technology. We need a dedicated epidemic response unit because the Ministry of Health is not the right organisation to do software development and PPE procurement and distribution and so on. We need to start looking at risk-based approaches. So some countries have it, others don't. We've got to stop treating them all the same. So if you start getting better performance at public health, that increases the amount of freedom that people have. Fundamentally, it's about maintaining elimination without going to lockdowns, and it's about making sure that we actually are able to reconnect with the rest of the world safely. When you talk about personal responsibility, I always just come back to the fact that, one of the things a society is supposed to do is give the next generation of kids a good chance. And when I see the statistics, 1 in 8 kids born onto a benefit, we've got to get some personal responsibility, not Jacinda saying she's going to buy the kids lunch and Judith saying she's going to brush their teeth. Actual personal responsibility for the next generation, and our welfare policy says, look, if you get into trouble, there's a benefit there for you. If you keep having kids on a benefit, then we are going to use electronic income management to make sure that the finances go to benefiting the kids. It's worked well in Australia, we should do it here. Then you look at protecting our natural environment. I wish Simon Court was here, our environmental spokesman and an environmental engineer for 25 years, and what he'll tell you is, look, we have far too much regulation and not enough innovation when it comes to solving environmental problems. And I think you're going to see quite a good blue-green voice coming into Parliament if Simon's elected.
Craig, now there's a lot of questions around end of life we've had on via text, email. Craig, you can be the spokesperson for all of the people who've been asking.
Great. This is my dilemma. Convince me, please. Everything ACT stands for, I want to vote. I can't for the end of life. How can you protect that in 75, 80 years' time, my grandchildren don't get a COVID and when they're tested positive are in a queue to have an injection? How can your act or this end of life thing not get manipulated over the next few generations to be something evil?
Oh, very easily. Look, this legislation is fundamentally about choice, and so I'd give you two thoughts. Number one is that it needs to be done. It needs to be done for the people that are suffering right now, people who get to the end of their life with a terminal illness. Palliative care can help a lot, but it can't help all, and people should be able to have the choice and the dignity and the control that they've had in life as they go to their death. So we've got to do it. Second of all, it's fundamentally safe, and I could take you through the whole workings of it and all the checks and balances and the responsibilities, but let me just put it this way. I asked the Dutch ambassador, why do people say such horrible things about euthanasia in the Netherlands? And she gave me some research. After 15 years of having their law, only 6% of Dutch people are opposed to it, 88% in favour, and the rest unsure or refuse. Now, if half the scary things that people say happen were true, do we really think only 6 or 7% of the Dutch would be opposed to their law, and the Royal Dutch Medical Society would wholeheartedly support their law? So that is, I think, without going through the detail of how it actually works, just ask yourself, either the law is safe or the Netherlands are a much, much crazier country than we ever realised. Now, in terms of your suggestion of what might happen in 75 years, I really hope New Zealand is never anything like that, but a law that is fundamentally based on individual choice is not a pathway towards other people choosing for you.
We'll take a short break. Back with David Seymour and your questions in just a moment. News Talk ZB, 10:23.
Sales restaurant at West Haven, and we find Bart Littlejohn on another beautiful Thursday morning.
Oh, it's beautiful down here in West Haven. It's just so fabulous. When I look out the windows across to the Harbour Bridge and it's all lit up at night, it's just a fantastic place to be.
Yeah. Speaking of night, Bart, I was pondering this myself. What nights are you open now?
Oh, yeah, we have changed our nights. Well, of course, we used to be open 7 days a week down at Sales, but now we're open Wednesday through to Sunday, and we're also open for Thursday, Friday, and Sunday lunches. We will be opening some more lunches next month, so stay with it and keep on expanding those as we go through the rest of the year.
All right, now crayfish. You're doing something with crays.
Of course, we are extending our crayfish promotion. It's the longest we've ever extended it. People are asking us to do so. It's an unprecedented year, so we're going to do that. So crayfish this month, $89 for a whole crayfish, $52 for a half. Includes a gorgeous glass of Alan Scott Black Label Chardonnay. It's a fabulous deal. Make sure that you tick the crayfish box when you're booking online.
You can do it online at salesrestaurant.co.nz, on the phone at
3789890, ladies.
As we like to say, see you soon at Sales.
Talking news, talking views. Call 0800 80 1080. Kerre McIvor Mornings. News Talk ZB.
News Talk ZB with ACT leader David Seymour. There was one other question that came through via text, David. What does the End of Life Act, will that have ramifications on life insurance policies?
Yeah, so this is a question a lot of people have wanted to ask about, and I can be totally clear that we actually put in the legislation as part of the process of listening and changing and improving it as it went through the parliamentary process, a clear statement that it doesn't affect your life insurance. So if you choose end of life choice, you will not lose anything. The law requires the insurance companies to honour it.
Okay, that answered that. A gender pay gap. This is from Sarah, who says, a friend sent me an extract of a response by David Seymour to a question around the gender pay gap. He said, the gender pay gap exists when you have to be there late at night to make the sale, put in the extra hours and do all the extra things that women are often unavailable to do because the way gender roles work, they're not available. As a professional woman who is or was considering voting for ACT, I was very disappointed by these remarks, as it demonstrates a complete lack of understanding of the place of women in the professional workplace.
Yeah, and look, I'm really sorry to hear that too, and I'm really glad it's been brought up, because the context is that I was quoting, or at least summarising, research by Claudia Golden, who, by the way, was the first female economist to get tenure at Harvard and a former president of the American Association of Economists. That's her basic finding. And what I went on to say, but sadly wasn't reported, is that if you take what she's saying to be the case, and by the way, remember, this is statistics. This is on average. This is not saying anything about any particular person. But if you take that average result to be true, then what needs to happen is that men and women need to take more equal roles in the home so that we can be more equal in the workplace. And I see that happening, amongst my friends, sort of late 30s, professionals with kids. My male mates are taking a lot more paternity leave, a lot more time off. I think that there's an evolving situation where we're getting towards being a more equal world, and it's a really positive thing. So that's really the point I was making, and people can obviously get quite het up about the issue, but that's Claudia Golden's conclusion, and I think it's worth listening to that kind of evidence, and it's worth men doing a bit more housework if that's what she's found.
All right, thank you. Neil, hi.
Hi, Kerry. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
First of all, I think looking at all the parties, you seem to be pretty sensible on at least some of the policies that I am aware of. But my question to you today is quite specific in terms of immigration. And when I'm saying immigration, I'm talking about small-scale businesses that are owned here in New Zealand by overseas investors. And when I say that, I mean they've got investments of businesses away overseas, Fiji, Tonga, wherever. But they have got their own established business here for about 5 to 6 years at least from now till now, and they earn about $2 to $3 million a year for the New Zealand economy. My question to you is, at the moment, with the immigration process that seems to be, is that they have got quite a lot of conditions. One particular case is where it's sort of the immigration is asking them to sell off their business that's out in Tonga and Fiji and a few other Pacific Island nations, just in order for them to be able to get a residency over here.
What, so that they have a certain, Neil, is it so that they have a certain amount of money when they come into the country?
Yeah, but
right.
What they don't...
But that's standard practice, isn't it?
Yeah, no. But what they don't realise, I think, is the fact that they already have a New Zealand-based, New Zealand-owned company. What I'm trying to say is the company that's here in New Zealand is actually not a department or a supplement of the overseas company.
Yeah, well, look, mate, can I come in there and say, obviously there's got to be some rules around immigration. We don't want open slather. We want to make sure that people that are coming to New Zealand actually make a contribution to the country and pay their share of tax and bring skills and capital and so on. And I've got to tell you that as a local member of Parliament, I never thought that I'd find a government department that drove more people through my office door than Auckland Transport. But it turns out that Immigration New Zealand can annoy even more people than them. And you talk to any local MP, the number one issue for the last 2 years has been the poor performance of Immigration New Zealand interpreting those rules. And it's heartbreaking. We see families divided, employers that can't get skills, people that can't stay here. It's often really, really sad. So I think one of the things that's going to have to happen in the next government is, before we talk about what the rules of immigration are, Immigration New Zealand's got to get better at enforcing them. You look at the lockdown, they all went home, and because unlike every other organisation in New Zealand, they had no IT capability to work from home, they just stopped processing visas for 6 to 9 weeks. It's hopeless. And so I think, without knowing exactly the circumstances you're talking about, we got to do better with Immigration New Zealand.
How much of the poor decision making we've seen and the poor results we've seen are down to a mismanaged bureaucracy or ministers?
Look, in my view, it's just a really poor bureaucracy. It takes a long time, massive delays. Where I put it back to the ministers is that I don't think they have been holding the bureaucracy accountable and saying, look, what are your processing times? Why does it take so long? Why can't we get to clearer decisions so people can either say, yes, you can come, no, you can't, get on with your life? Because the uncertainty that it introduces to small businesses is just unaffordable, especially as we're trying to recover from this crisis.
News Talk ZB, back in a moment with that leader, potential Deputy Prime Minister, but he's dismissed that at the very beginning of the show. 10:31.
News Talk ZB Auckland. Time saver traffic.
Family fun at Butterfly Creek open all school holidays. Now, the southern motorway, moderate heavy flows Ellerslie through to Green Lane. Looking at the northern city bound, it is slow getting on at Greville. Then you're going to hit heavy traffic, Tristram all the way through to the Harbour Bridge. Everywhere else is flowing well. Dinosaurs, mermaids, crocodiles save 10% at butterflycreek.co.nz. Conditions apply. Time saver traffic.
It's double deal time
at Lumino. A $69 new patient exam and x-rays, plus a 30-month interest-free offer on treatments. It's sure to put a smile on your face. Find a participating practice and book online today at lumino.co.nz. T's and C's apply.
News Talk ZB is your home for up-to-the-minute Mitre 10 Cup rugby news, thanks to Kennards Hire. From Northland to Southland, Hawke's Bay to Bay of Plenty. Follow your team throughout the competition.
Field still going, beat Cameron, beat another one, he's going all the way! Oh, what a wonderful drive for Tasman. Chip and chase back there, and it's going to be a try! Game on!
Mitre 10 Cup coverage on News Talk ZB, thanks to Kennards Hire. Equipment to tackle whatever, whenever, wherever.
This week at Fruit World, grab some delicious savings. New Zealand blueberries, only $6.99 a punnet. And New Zealand large Hass avocados, 2 for $5.
Fresh makes the world go round.
The most beautiful sleep ever made could win you one of 5 dreamy escapes to Queenstown. Try the new Sleepyhead Sanctuary in store and you could win. Visit sleepyhead.co.nz for details. Sleepyhead Sanctuary, the most beautiful sleep ever made.
This Sunday morning, the resident builder, Pete Wolfcamp, talks everything DIY thanks to Carpet Country. Carpet Country's been selling and laying carpets for over 20 years. They floor, you adore. Visit carpetcountry.co.nz and choose from a wide range of carpets and hard flooring. From landscaping to outdoor entertaining, furnishing to building, Pete Wolfcamp's got it covered thanks to Carpet Country. Sunday morning with the resident builder, 6 till 8, only on News Talk ZB.
How to prepare smoked fish pie. Pop a Faro ready-to-cook smoked fish pie, just $23.99, into your oven for 30 minutes. Then referee family fights over second helpings. For more ready-to-cook feasts, Faro Food Stores, for it all.
News Talk ZB headlines.
With Blue Bubble taxis, it's no trouble with a Blue Bubble. ACT Party leader David Seymour says being Deputy Prime Minister isn't out of the question, but it's unlikely. During last night's second leaders debate, National's Judith Collins says he'd be excellent in the role if her party won the election. David Seymour told Kerre McIvor it's not on his mind.
ACT's always been more focused on the policies and what we can leave behind to make this a better place than any particular jobs.
Advance New Zealand's asking a judge to intervene after being denied a spot in MediaWorks TV Power Brokers debate, which will feature ACT, the Greens and the Māori Party. A fire is under control in Orewa's shops north of Auckland in the roof of a single-storey building containing shops, including a bakery. Suggestions the US Presidential Commission is looking at format changes after a rowdy, combative debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden yesterday. A poll has found 80% of Aucklanders surveyed want a tunnel harbour crossing on the back of travel disruptions caused by damage to the harbour bridge. How Kiwi skincare brand grew into a multi-million-dollar operation. Find out how at NZ Herald Premium. Back to Kerre McIvor.
Malcolm, thank you. It is 24 minutes to 11. David Seymour, ACT Party leader, is with me in the studio, taking your questions and indeed mine. Harbour crossing, where are we at on that tunnel, bridge?
Oh, look, one of the most embarrassing things about being an Aucklander is to look at the 1950s motorway plan, which had 3 harbour crossings and a ring road around the city, and we've built about 20% of it. So we got to actually invest a lot more in infrastructure. If you look at the infrastructure policy that we put out about 2 days ago now, we basically say let's have a 30-year agreement between the central government, who has the money, and each region who does the planning about what gets built. No politics, just a plan to actually get infrastructure built, funded largely by central government, planned by local government, because at the moment, local government does all the planning and they won't let central government build anything. Central government has all the money and they won't fund anything that local government wants to do. So we've got to break that gridlock, and so we can break the gridlock on our motorways. I think if you did that, then a second harbour crossing would actually be something that would be very high on the priority list. But, you know, I actually am a trained engineer, and so I know enough to know not to come on the show as a politician and start trying to design what the motorway network should look like.
It's going to cost money. Anything's going to cost money in terms of the infrastructure. We're already in the hole for quite a lot of money. Everybody's doing a don't panic, Dad's Army type thing. It's all fine. We're in a good position beforehand. We're better off than the rest of the world. What's your take on the debt that we're incurring?
Well, what I've noticed is that the audiences that are coming to public meetings ACT puts on are getting younger and younger. We're getting toddlers coming along, and I think that they might have been reading the Treasury website and they're worried about the debt because they're seeing 15 years. I mean, their parents bring them, but their parents are young too, so it's younger people are worried about the future. And they're seeing 15 years of reading, deficits every year until those toddlers are actually learning to drive and going to university. So I think that we've got to start being honest about what's happening with our debt. 140 billion of borrowing, and we've got to start asking hard questions. That is the government going to live within the same rules as everyone else? Because just about every household, every business has had to make serious economies this year. But the government just carries on spending as it always has, spending more with money printed by the Reserve Bank, and then every other party goes out and makes promises to spend even more in the election campaign, so even that hasn't changed. Only ACT with our debt destroyer, and it's an interactive website, nzh.tw. You can actually go on there and look at some of the figures for yourself and see what it's going to take to balance a budget. And I think we've got to start being honest about the debt, because otherwise it's just not fair on those kids who have no idea what's been done this year, but the decisions made this year will affect them literally for decades.
Yeah, I agree. Do you own a house in Epsom?
No.
Can you afford one?
I actually can't. I mean, you look at what houses are going for, $1.5 million. That's almost 10 times income. So I'm not out there to complain or whinge. It's a series of choices that I've made in my life to travel and be involved in politics and take a year off running for election with no income. It's only a sob story from David Seymour. But what I would point out is that very few people can afford a house that costs 10 times their income. And if I want to live in the electorate that I represent, then that's pretty much what I'm looking at. So, no, I don't. And I think this is why, even people who own homes are saying, look, pretty happy with my home value. Problem is I got these 3 kids and I'm worried they're going to come and ask me for a deposit. So I think ultimately everyone's got an interest in doing something about housing, but it's such a great example of what I call just-in delivery, and that's where you make big promises and then don't do anything. So this government just-in delivered Kiwi Build, and they fundamentally didn't solve the problem. The problem is sections are too expensive. You can't get the infrastructure. You can't get consent before you build anything. Kiwi Build was just about the government trying to build homes on the same limited supply of sections, and then they couldn't even sell them because if the section price was the real problem, they hadn't solved it. So we got to get serious about RMA, about infrastructure funding, and about building consents, because the councils are holding everything up there, and actually let the next generation build homes like the boomers did. If we do that, I think the country's got a real bright future. But otherwise, if we just keep assaulting landlords, as this government loves to do, I don't know why, and going down rabbit warrens with ill-conceived policies like Kiwi Build, then it's going to ultimately be a political problem, because you can have a larger and larger group of people who just feel they don't own anything in this country and don't have a chance. They're on the outer, and that whole Kiwi dream of being a coherent society starts to go out the window. So, one of the things that the next government has to do is, get serious, not Phil Twyford serious, but actually serious about fixing the difficulty we have with building homes.
We'll take a short break. Back with your questions. News Talk ZB, it's 19 to 11.
Love reading? Then check out the latest favourites from Woodcalls.
During a near-death experience, Dawn Edelstein's life flashes through her mind. And shockingly, her thoughts are not about her family, but about a man she last saw 15 years ago in Egypt, and to whom she's tempted to return. This explores the things that really matter and what makes life worth living. Themes which Jodie Picoult has made her own. It's The Book of Two Ways by Jodie Picoult.
Available from Woodcalls, in store or online today.
Every Friday, let Heather Duplessis Allen ease you into the weekend with Hell Pizza. Text HELL to 9292 with your name and city, and you could score one of 8 $60 vouchers to spend at Hell Pizza. It's Heather's hell of a weekend with Hell Pizza. Free-range ingredients, plant-based, vegetarian and gluten-free options available. Be in to win with Hell Pizza and Heather Duplessis Allen Drive. Every Friday, only on News Talk ZB.
If you've been thinking about a new career direction, like me, did you know you could get help with your retraining? That's right. People of all ages can get help to retrain. Do that and you could find yourself working in a wide range of industries in which demand for skilled people is high. That includes forestry, agriculture, construction, community support, electrical engineering and manufacturing. To find out more information about getting help with training, go to careers.govt.nz/new skills.
This Sunday morning, the resident builder, Pete Wolfcamp, talks everything DIY thanks to Carpet Country. Carpet Country's been selling and laying carpets for over 20 years. They floor, you adore. Visit carpetcountry.co.nz and choose from a wide range of carpets and hard flooring. From landscaping to outdoor entertaining, furnishing to building, Pete Wolfcamp's got it covered thanks to Carpet Country. Sunday morning with the resident builder, 6 till 8, only on News Talk ZB.
The perfect lounge suite. If you can dream it, you can design it.
Furniture Now.
Furniture Now's customisable lounge suite catalogue is out. Choose your style, choose the colour, fabric, foam density, even the feet. 3-seater, 2-seater, single, ottoman. Build your own lounge suite just how you want it. Grab Furniture Now's customisable lounge suite catalogue at Sylvia Park, Manuko, Pukekohe and furniturenow.co.nz. T's and C's apply.
Furniture Now.
Pure opinion, no holds barred. It's Kerre McIvor Mornings on News Talk ZB.
It is 16 to 11. Right, let's rattle through your questions now. David, one on the Treaty of Waitangi. Hello, David.
Yeah, kia ora.
Oh, kia ora.
Kia ora. Hey, listen, David. Firstly, I'm not an ACT follower or supporter, but what I will say is I've been very impressed with your answers to all the questions this morning. So well done.
Thank you.
So you mentioned earlier before about some Māori Party supporters have indicated that they could be interested in maybe coming towards your way with the election. I'm probably one of those. I won't say at this stage that I'm totally convinced, but what I am saying is that not very happy with what I've seen so far in regards to with how the Māori Party, or not so much the Māori Party, but the Māori groups and the policies that they've put out there so far and how we see things. But from my point of view, just for you, David, is what is your view on the treaty?
Yeah, all right. Hey, thanks for the question. And look, first I'll just say, you look at our top 7 candidates. I mean, Karen Shaw, Nicole McKee and I, we've got 3 Ngāpuhi candidates in our top 7, so I don't know if that's going to lose us the rest of Māoridom, but it's a fact. When it comes to the treaty, look, my view is it's a fantastic document. You read it, and you read Professor Sir Hugh Kōwhato's translation of the Māori version into modern English. It says the Queen is sovereign, your property rights are secure, and everyone's equal. It's probably the best foundation of a country you could ever have. I don't like the way that the Court of Appeal and others have tried to interpret it as some big scheme for politicians to run a country with 2 types of people. That I'm opposed to. But I also acknowledge that we have real problems in New Zealand, real fault lines, especially around education. And the reason I'm so proud of charter schools is that, among other things, it was endorsed by the Iwi Leaders Forum. Until we get to a stage where the average Māori kid has the same opportunities to grow up, go to a school that engages them, learn, get skills, turn them into qualifications that turn into jobs, that turn into careers, ultimately a sense of self-esteem and feeling good about themselves, then we're going to remain a nation divided. And the way to do that is not to go along and tell Maori kids, you're going to be a failure because of colonisation, which is frankly what the education system is telling them right now, but actually give some choice and some opportunity in education and other areas of policy so that everybody can actually succeed the way that New Zealand's supposed to work.
What's the difference between a charter school and a school of special interest, which this government calls them?
Oh, this government. Let me just try and remain calm.
Well, I just saw that passion light up there.
Yeah. Well, these. No, you're not allowed to say. I just think about words you're not allowed to say on your show, Kerry.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So charter schools are the most progressive social policy in a generation. Let me tell you about a girl called Hope. She came up to me at the Vanguard Military School, said, I never knew I was smart until I came here, because she'd failed NCEA twice and she was leading her class at a charter school. You imagine what that does to a kid's self-esteem. We did that over 2,000 times. This government comes along and says, I'm going to put children at the centre of everything. Oh, really? Okay, so what they did with charter schools is that they closed them for one day, reopened them the next day with two changes. One, no longer had to, and this is the difference between the two, answering a question, no longer had to achieve contracted outcomes for student attendance and student achievement. Two, teachers had to have union contracts. So the government that says that it put children at the heart of everything put their union backers ahead of poor brown kids who never get a chance. And that's the truth, and that's the real truth about this government.
Thank you for answering that. Sion, hi.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Hey, David, I want to congratulate you on the recent number polling. You've been doing fantastic. I think you're fresh air in the New Zealand politics. Now, I'm just about there to give you my vote for the party. But after listening last night to Judith in regards of the question about the so-called global warming or climate change or climate emergency, as they call it now, because they keep changing the name. I know your stand and I know where you're at, but how will you align, let's say, if you become deputy or your party is running New Zealand together with National and you form a government, how will you align with the so-called climate emergency when you have two different opposite opinions on it? And good luck to the election day.
Yeah, well, look, thank you, sir, and I don't want to be pernickety, but I'm never going to run New Zealand. You run New Zealand. I'm trying to run the government, which is a small part of New Zealand, frankly too big in my opinion. When it comes to the question of climate change, look, I spent most of my 20s on this. I actually spent 2 days with Patrick Moore at one point. I read all the books, read the reports, all the rest. At the end of it, the conclusion I came to is that from a New Zealand perspective, it doesn't really matter what we think. We're a passenger on this journey, and there's basically two dangers. One is we have no climate policy and we get beaten up internationally in trade deals and so on, and the consumers say that we're irresponsible and our export markets suffer. So we've got to have a climate policy. The other danger is we go too hard, and Glenbrook Steel Mill, for instance, gets shut down. 1,400 jobs go. We all get lower quality, more expensive steel from China, which has no climate policy. Global emissions increase. Ultimate way to shoot yourself in the foot, which is something this government's very good at. So we got to stay between that ceiling and that floor. ACT is the only party that opposed the Zero Carbon Act. It's bureaucratic, it won't work, it put too much power in the hands of the Minister of Climate Change. We're pushing to repeal that, but our policy is to have a carbon price under the ETS that is tagged to our top 5 trading partners' payments, so that New Zealanders do their bit and don't pay any more than our competitors.
All right. Mike, hello.
Oh, hello.
Hi there.
I have... hello, David. I have an observation first and then a question. The observation is that we went to Picton yesterday to listen to the ACT presentation, and the headliners didn't appear, but instead, I guess, guys that I'd never heard of that were further down the list, and they were extremely competent and very convincing. So I think that perhaps Kerry's concern that there were incompetence in the list was certainly dispelled in my mind anyway.
Yeah, look, well, thanks for the observation. I think that would have been Chris and Nicole and Simon that I've been mentioning. And, I always just say to people, they say, we don't know who your MPs are. Look, I mean, no one knew who Margaret Thatcher was until she changed the world. She was just, someone working at an ice cream factory.
Is she your pin-up girl, politician-wise?
No, she's just an example of an effective politician who worked in an ice cream factory.
And did you have a question, Mike?
Well, I did, but I must say that those people didn't appear, and they were the headline act, as it were, but instead it was there was Simon Court and Richard Evans further down the list, and they were very good.
There we go.
Yeah, Richard's our Kaikoura candidate. He's great, runs a business, employs 25 people, was an engineer, and that's the kind of quality we're attracting.
Excellent. Going to have to take a break. It is 7 to 11.
The new St John mobile alarm now helps you or a loved one get out and about with confidence. Call 0800 50 23 23 for the only mobile alarm that connects directly to St John.
KFC's new waffle double down. Enjoy a Belgian waffle with... Hold on, it's not Belgian enough. Can I get some accordion? With maple mayo and bacon between 2 secret recipe fillets. Only at KFC.
If you run a small business, it's time to take your expensive business insurance policy, your expensive public liability policy, and your expensive professional indemnity policy and get them out of your system. BizCover, a New Zealand small business insurance specialist, giving you multiple quotes from top insurers. No nasty paperwork, just hassle-free insurance online. Don't pay too much for your business insurance. Head to bizcover.co.nz to compare, insure and save.
Nobody else do tools and machinery. Nobody else like Machinery House.
If your business is a well-oiled machine, you'll have customers with high expectations and low tolerance for stuff-ups. So at Machinery House, we've got everything you need. Cutting machines, woodworking machines, metalworking machines, fabrication machines, machines to keep well-oiled machines like yours moving along nicely. Machinery House, where machines are right at home. East Tamaki and Christchurch or online at machineryhouse.co.nz.
Hey, it's Nadia Lim here. Are you looking for a way to get a nutritious dinner on the table fast? Made is the perfect way to free up your evenings with fresh, ready-made meals and enjoy delicious meals ready in minutes. Made in small batches with premium New Zealand ingredients, from vibrant curries and classic roasts, as well as pies and lasagnas that taste as good as homemade. There's so much local goodness to choose from. You can even get free shipping on your first order with the promo code FREESHIP. T's and C's apply. Head to getmade.co.nz.
Let CSL Containers solve your storage problem. 40, 20 or 10-foot containers. CSL are your best choice for shipping containers. Find out more at container.co.nz.
Call 0800 40 20 10.
No-Liming massive sellout is on now with Vodafone offers. Get a $200 No-Liming gift card when you purchase selected mobiles on interest-free with a $99 deposit on a Vodafone $60 or above pay monthly plan. Offer ends Tuesday. T's and C's apply.
News Talk ZB. It is, well, we've only got a minute and a half really, so I'll hand it over to you. I have to say, we could have done in probably another hour.
Yeah, well, it's been a real pleasure, Kerry. Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for listening and texting in.
Yeah, so final thoughts that you want to leave with anyone who's undecided?
Yeah, look, what I'd say to people is that our whole world has just changed, and our small island nation has to navigate its way through that. So right now you've got someone who I personally like. I know some people don't, but I think Jacinda Ardern is a genuinely warm person who truly wants the best for New Zealand. Only problem is she doesn't have a clue what that is or how to deliver it. And so my view is, we need a change, but we need more than that. We actually need a change in direction. And ACT has actually led the debate in a bunch of areas. When it comes to the COVID response, we need to get Taiwan smart about public health. We need to maintain elimination without any more lockdowns. We need to reconnect safely with the rest of the world. We need to get honest about that debt. But then, we actually need to capitalise on this. All of a sudden, our isolation's an advantage, and we could really take off if only we stop shooting ourselves in the foot with poorly conceived laws. Now, was that money for nothing, I heard? This is my favourite song, and it's Labour's favourite policy, but we got to get honest about the debt and stop the spending splurge, and that's one of the things your voters voting for a party vote for ACT is a party vote to keep them all accountable.
Well, it's been a real pleasure, David Seymour. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you all for your questions. We'll go out for Money for Nothing. News at 11 is next.
Look at that, look at that.
Faster recovery, less debt, and frankly, just
I call it the new Pakaranga,
the situation our country's in and where it's going.
Looking at the polls, you would surely say that a party vote for ACT means a Labour Greens government, coalition government, and a whole bunch of numpties nobody's ever heard of in Parliament.
Well, that's not very kind, Kerry. I mean, here's how I'd put it. A party vote for ACT means that, first of all, you're bringing votes for not only a change of government, but also to change the direction of the country. And we're actually getting people who used to vote for the Māori Party, according to your competitors' polling. We're finishing, the third party in two of the Māori electorates now. We're getting people coming from Labour, even people from the Greens, and of course,
the Greens.
Yeah. Well, that's a
Prove it.
Look, I'll tell you why people are coming from the Greens. It's because there are good people who have been Green voters for a long time because they're fundamentally liberals. They believe in choice over your body, choice over your mind, and especially freedom of speech. And now that the Green Party have become the number one thought police in New Zealand, some of their supporters, not a lot, but some of them are saying, you know what, ultimately the values that matter to me are the ability to think and speak freely, and there's only one party that has consistently stood up for that, and that's ACT. So, yep, believe it or not, even some of that. Now, the reason I tell you all that is, your assumption is that a vote for ACT is a vote for Labour and the Greens. Actually, I think ACT can help win this for the right. And you see our polling going up at the same time as the Nats goes up. I actually think it's all on. So, a party vote for ACT is actually a vote for a change of government and direction. Now, you very unkindly said that the people coming in with me are numpties. I think that's very unfair.
I think if you look back over history, though, if you look back over political history, when you get a small party, a niche party that brings in a whole lot of people who have no experience of Parliament, it does not end well for them or for the party or indeed for Parliament. I'm thinking of the Alliance. I'm thinking of New Zealand First. Have you given these people any kind of idea of what to expect? Look at some of the implosions that happened with inexperienced politicians in the last term. Across all sides of the house.
So I think you're right to reference that history because we've certainly been aware of it. So in the middle of last year, we started our School of Practical Politics, and we started running through with people like Brooke Van Velden, people like Nicole McKee, although she came a bit later, people like Chris Bailey, 15 years as a youth aid cop, 15 years as a teacher, also owns a small business, the Honest Lawyer Pub in Nelson, makes payroll for 30 people. Simon Court, environmental engineer for 25 years, used to be a Greenie, thinks their ideas don't work. He thinks we need less regulation and more innovation to save the planet, based on being an engineer.